unique, and perhaps even genius insights, clear or confusing communication, misunderstandings, anxiety over not being able to express yourself clearly, not wanting to be interfered with. These are all pressures that this cycle of the Human Design Weather for May 9th to 14th, 2025 will bring. Hello, hello. I'm Margot Fraser, your guide through the cosmic weather. As a certified human design professional and intuitive coach, I'm on a mission to help you know, live, and love the magic of your own nature. In this podcast, Human Design Weather or Not, we explore the conditioning influences of the transit field, the planetary motions. You can't avoid the conditioning pressures. You'll likely notice their effects playing out around you, but rather than you reacting and being pulled off track, this awareness will empower you to navigate the cycle, staying true to your authentic nature and take advantage of the opportunities when correct for you. Okay, let's delve into the weather. I mentioned last time I scratched my eyeballs, so you might see little flashes of red there because it's fine. It doesn't hurt, but there's still some red, some blood around the eyeball itself there. So sorry about that. Not so fun to look at, but that's the way it is right now. Okay, well, this cycle starts on May 9th at 12:03 a.m. and goes until May 14th at 7:53 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. UTC, Universal Time Coordinates, that's May 9th at 6:03 a.m. until May 15th at 1:53 a.m. So remember to convert that to your own time zone so that you know when it starts and ends for you. We always start looking at the Sun-Earth activations because that's 70% of the conditioning field. Once again, we have two individual traits being activated this cycle, which has the potential to bring a pulse of knowing through that could be very mutative, something new coming through, and that can be very empowering. I forgot to mention last cycle. Last cycle was the start of the second quarter in the human design calendar, which is the quarter of civilization, all about bringing things into form. So you get an extra boost from the transit field if that's something that you're doing or trying to do over this next 3 months, bringing something to form, materializing something. So keep that in mind. The sun has moved into gate 23, the trait of assimilation in the throat center. This is an individual trait, as I mentioned, about empowerment, getting these pulses of knowing, potentially bringing mutation. Remember, with individual circuitry, you have no control over when or if the pulse is going to come through. The keynote for this trait says amorality, the awareness and understanding which leads to the acceptance of diversity. So individuality is amoral in that there's no morals attached to it. That comes from the collective and the tribal traits. Something new pulses through, something new pulses through. It's about knowing and not knowing. It has absolutely nothing to do with morality. It's the voice, especially the voice in the head that says, I know, and then explains its knowing. Sometimes those knowings can offend others. It can be rejected. We'll talk more about that when we get to our channel theme. Assimilation, this trait of assimilation, can be being assimilated into the collective so that you don't stand out so much as an individual. And that way you can express your insight to others in the collective, and it will be more likely to be accepted. You still have to follow your strategy and authority, though. That's really, really important. Assimilation also corresponds to or refers to assimilating all the insights that come through gate 43 the trait of insight that we'll talk about next in the Ajna Center. Most often, people just blurt things out of these throat gates to the wrong people at the wrong time because they're not following their strategy and authority. The earth has moved into that gate 43, the trait of insight or breakthrough in the Ajna Center. That's the seat of the mind, and all the mental processes are analyzing, comparing, rationalizing, everything the mind does. Its keynote says, in order for achievement to be maintained, a new order must be fairly established. Well, the achievement of Gate 43 is the ability to explain the knowing. Remember that this is not logic. This is not based in facts and all the details. This is not the making sense side of the circuitry, the abstract side, looking at the past, reflecting on it, gaining the wisdom, and sharing that. These are pulses of potentially something brand new that's coming through. And if that can't be properly explained, that knowing to others, you're not really going to feel like you've achieved anything. And it says new because, well, everything in individuality is about bringing through something new. So the potential opportunity for you with this activation is to gain that sudden awareness, that spontaneous individual knowing, that pulse that comes through. Something hopefully that's of value. Now, it may not be once you've gone through the process of assimilating it. This is also the gate of the inner ear, the voice in the head, so to speak, the inner acoustic mind. It's one of the three gates of deafness. So we may not hear each other as well this cycle. Keep that in mind. Individuals always attract attention, and they can always attract rejection, especially if you can't explain yourself. So there can be a real anxiety that comes with the pressure of this trait that, oh, no one's going to know what I mean. I'm never going to be able to explain myself well. So just be aware that that's there if you're feeling that within you. Yeah, it might be the pressure of this transit field. So individuals really do need to learn how to communicate, develop that communication skill so that they can express themselves well. Now, this is a trait that requires patience, because just because the knowing comes through doesn't mean that you understand it right away. Like, what? What is that? And so there's a process that takes some time to go over it and go into the knowing and delve into it. What is this really about to get to that place where you can explain it? When we look at these two traits together, it actually creates a channel. So let's look at that now. Anytime the transit field creates a channel, everyone that doesn't already have it in their chart is receiving the activation of the related traits and qualities. So there's a big impact here. This is a channel I'm very familiar with. I don't have it myself, but everybody else in my family has it. So with the Sun Earth creating this channel, yeah, it's going to be here for the full cycle. And this channel is called the channel of structuring, a design of individuality. It's, of course, part of the individual circuitry operating in that pulse. We affectionately call this channel genius to freak. It's the place where those insights are getting structured so that they can be clearly explained. They're getting assimilated and understood, and that explanation being formed. That insight or insights, as the blocks get put together, could really be seen as genius and bring mutation, bring something new, a new perspective. That's the opportunity that this channel brings. Individual circuitry, again, brings those pulses of knowing, something new. It's not about the making sense. It's not about the facts. So it is a process, a knowing in the now that comes through in a pulse, and blocks of knowings getting structured into something that can be explained. If that insight, though, is just blurted out, uninvited, and can't be clearly explained, it's just going to seem weird. It's going to seem freaky. That's why we call it genius to freak. It's more likely to be ignored. So you really have to follow strategy and authority with this. Also remember that this is coming out of the mental process, right? It's one of the mental streams. We have the logic side, the abstract side, and this individual knowing component. All the circuitry of the ajna and the head in the ajna stops at the throat. Once it's been articulated, that's the end of the process. There isn't necessarily anything for you to do about it. Most of your insights are not going to be for yourself. They're going to be for others, to open something up for them. So it kind of takes the pressure off. Like, oh, okay, there's not anything that I necessarily have to do about that, right? About this, unless your strategy and authority says, yeah, there's something for you to do here. Remember that gate 43 is one of the traits of deafness, so there could be a lot of miscommunications, misunderstandings this cycle. I already told you that. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. No, you didn't. Okay. Take a breath. This is just the transit field. All right. Now, individual traits and circuitry can also pulse into melancholy. So if that happens, don't make yourself wrong about it. Try and channel it into your creative endeavors, and listening to music that you're in the mood for could be supportive as well. Be prepared to note down any knowings that do come in for you, any insights that come in, because the knowings can leave as fast as they come in. So, a notepad or your voice recorder on your phone, or text out notes to yourself, just some way to capture them right away. I know for me, so often I've said, oh, I'll remember that. And then later it's like, oh, what was that? It was something good, but what was that little morsel? All right. We have one channel that's being created by the transit of the moon this cycle. That means it's just a little taster, a little sampler. It's coming in on May 11th at 10:51 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time, going until May 12th at 4:13 a.m. UTC, that's coming in May 11th at 4:51 p.m. and going out on May 12th at 10:13. The moon has moved into gate 1 in the G center, the center associated with love, identity, and direction in life. And it's connecting with Uranus position, gate 8 in the throat center. This creates the channel of inspiration, which we actually saw earlier in May. It was here for about a week. And this is the design of a creative role model, part of the individual circuitry again, that can bring something new and mutative. If you have this channel in your design, part of you is really here to be a living example of uniqueness. This channel, like all individual circuitry, operates in a pulse of creative inspiration, and you have no control over when or if that pulse is coming through. It's something new here, not the continuous improvement or the refinement processes of the tribal and the collective circuitry. It's rooted in the knowing that true creative inspiration is independent of will. You can't just will creative inspiration on demand. It comes when it comes. It brings the opportunity to share your uniqueness out into the world, to express it. Individuals are really just here to be themselves in their own unique way. And this is a form of individual leadership, which is, I'm going to do my thing and you can follow me or not. Now, the caution here is that there can always be the fear of rejection of your unique contribution, or rejection of your uniqueness that could have you holding back. Or there could be the blurting out of your creative expression when it hasn't been invited. And in that case, it's going to likely be to the wrong people at the wrong time. This is why it's so important to follow your strategy and authorities. So you can have something to contribute, but when That's according to strategy and authority. All right. That brings us to our long-term transits. The long-term transits are created by the outer planets and the nodes. They're with us for a longer period of time. In some cases, that's years. So your not self mind, your shadow mind could start to think, ooh, that's part of me, even when it's not something that you have in your own design. And then it gets a little confusing when eventually that transit moves on. Like, what happened? I went into a pretty detailed explanation last cycle as there were lots of transitions that were going on between the start and the end of the last cycle to that gets us to these current gates. So I think the thing I really want to emphasize with the long-term transits for this cycle is that overall we have this really strong individuality. You know, the sun, the earth, the channel that they create. And then even the moon's channel is individual. Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, all in individual traits. Individuality does not like to be interfered with so that it's not influenced. Remember, it's here to bring through something new. So there could be this real kind of sense of like, geez, like, just leave me alone, will you? Like in the air. You may get that from other people. You might feel that within yourself. And it just may be the way that the transit field is playing out. So expect to see that. Don't be surprised. Remember, for any of these traits, when you don't have them in your own design, it's just pressure. It's just pressure from the transit field. You can observe it. You might be able to sense it. You can notice it playing out around you. You can learn from it. That's what the openness in your chart is about. Everything that's white in your chart, yes, it's where you can be conditioned, but conditioning is how we learn. We just don't want to attach to it as that's me. But also, whether there's anything for you to do from the pressure of the transit field, what am I going to say? Strategy and authority. That's what it comes back to. So don't let this conditioning field run you or puppet you. All right, that brings us to the end of the cosmic weather for this cycle. If you want to run your own chart, you can go to jovianarchive.com. And if you're new to human design and you want to understand the chart at a high level, what's the red and the black about, the different geometric shapes, there's a little bit of background on the human design system there. You can grab my free Human Design Basics mini course. It's at margotgfraser.com/human-design. All right, if you've enjoyed this podcast, I would be very grateful if you could give the episode a like and consider subscribing. This is potentially a really great cycle for expressing your individuality and potentially your insights. Just make sure, yes, strategy and authority. I know I repeat it a lot, but it's so important. Otherwise, those insights, if you just blurt them out, are going to seem kind of weird to others and more likely to be rejected. The pressure is going to be there, though. So you could hear some very insightful things from others that the pulse is coming through, or they're at that point in the assimilation where they can clearly explain things that could really give you a new perspective. And if it's coming through you, that's really going to support others in gaining a new perspective. Probably going to be a talkative cycle. Simply because most people are in the not self and they're just going to be blurting things out. So expect to hear weird things. Carry a sense of humor, be compassionate, don't just reject people out of that. Try and be kind to them, please. Watch for any extra anxiety around not being able to explain yourself. That's here in the field now. Okay. Have a great cycle. Be kind to one another, and may you know, love, and live the magic of your true nature. Until next time, bye for now.